should be live. Welcome back, nerds and turds, to another live stream repair. Let me get the... we don't need the progress today. We've only got this one, and it's already taken apart. So, I believe it was on Sunday's live stream, this most recent past Sunday. We took a look at Tim's HomePod here that they said no longer powered on, and they originally suspected because of some crappy power that their house usually gets that it was probably some sort of power surge that took the thing out. So we got it. When we unboxed it on the stream, the packing was, and oddly enough we actually pointed out how well the packing was. So when we got it apart, we didn't see anything obviously wrong on the outside, so we didn't think anything other than a standard blown fuse, because we saw 0 watts of power draw coming from the wall. So we started taking this apart with the idea that we were just going in to replace a fuse on the power supply and do a little bit of routine maintenance that we normally do on these HomePods. And what we saw when we got to the subwoofer, well, actually, let me back up. When we were getting to our rings here that hold the basket down, a couple of screws were a little bent. No big deal. We see that all the time. But our ring here has a bit of a crack. So, obviously, we figured we're starting to deal with some physical damage. And then the subwoofer, this is a first. So instead of part of this being bent out downward from it being pushed up like this, being dropped on its head, instead what we've got is drop damage from it falling downward and hitting the ground, bending up the entire perimeter of the basket of the subwoofer. So this is probably something that I can bend back, but I haven't had the time nor will have the time to make a bunch of noise to do that. Honestly, you just take a hammer and some plastic, sandwich it together, flatten it back to flatten it together, and you're good to go. But I do have a small stock of good used subwoofers that we can replace it with, so we don't have to make them wait around until I can smash this thing back straight. Once we got the subwoofer out, we saw some damage to the power supply. There is a component on here that is cracked, and the casing of the power supply itself is also cracked. And then when we looked at the bottom of the subwoofer, of course, you could see some marks on the bottom there that correlate to that. And the connector for the power supply also missing entirely. It had ripped completely off the power supply board. So that was why we weren't seeing any power draw at all. That said, there is no chance that any sort of power coming into this thing, good, bad, or otherwise, would cause this kind of physical damage. This is 100% certainly this HomePod getting either dropped or thrown. Honestly, this is I've never seen them experience so much force downward that it bends the whole subwoofer out like this and then cracks everything inside. So we got the power supply out, and we noticed that the amplifier board also has a couple of things bent on it or dented in, not to mention the board itself. And then inside we've got a cracked tweeter there, and it's either this one or some other tweeter inside has broken loose internally and rattles around when we shake it. Probably a few of them, honestly. So what we're going to do here today is see if the most critical part that we can't easily replace works still, and that's our logic board. And the reason why I say that is there is a fairly common issue that brings the first generation HomePod down, and that is the blinking volume buttons issue. Nobody is still yet for certain why or what causes it, or how to fix it. There's no known reliable way to fix that issue other than replacing the logic board with another one that's not bricked. A few theories are failed software update or failed corrupt software just in general. It just goes kaputs and corrupts itself, and there's no way for it to restore itself, no way to plug it into a computer, at least from the user's point of view. If you rip the rubber foot off the bottom, there's debug pins that allow you to connect it to a computer via USB, which we and many others have done, but still without much success, without public access to the IPSW file that you need to restore the firmware or software on these, much like they already have access for with essentially any other Apple product that runs software that you can restore. So, that all rambling said, hopefully what we're going to see here is if their logic board works. If it does, then we're going to proceed with repairs. We're going to, of course, put everything back together in a different shell because I don't trust this one, and it's going to be more work than it's worth taking all the tweeters out and replacing all of them, because if a few of them have been knocked loose, I wouldn't bother trusting any of them. Yeah, we've got plenty of these plastic shells with tweeters in them sitting around, so we've got more than we could ever need. So we'll go ahead and use that as an excuse to replace just all of that there. For the amp, that is a little harder. The amps are starting to get a little more difficult to get in good condition, of course, as more people buy up the ones for parts. Used ones go up, or they go up in scarcity. And yeah, it's just gonna get more difficult over time to get our hands on these parts, so we need to get better at fixing what we've got. So we're gonna see if this amp works. Last time we tried this, we tried it with the amp still in the HomePod here, and I don't know if there was something, with the way that this board is still tweaked, it might still work. But I don't know if there was an issue elsewhere in the shell that was causing what we saw when we tested this, which was the spark show. So we're going to not use this power supply ever again. It'll be good for a few parts, but that's just all it's good for now. We're gonna grab another power supply to test with. Oh, hey Mike, welcome to the stream. Do you think Apple Store could reset the software? No, the Apple stores do not restore the software. When the Apple stores get bricked HomePods as trade-ins for warranty replacements, they get shipped to some factory that Apple pays to dismantle them to their raw parts to be recycled. They make no attempt to repair or restore the software on these. Cheers. Okay, so let's get some stuff on here. I'm gonna start with I have right here a logic board and display that is bricked. It's got the blinking volume buttons issue, and these come in handy when I want to test something a little riskier, like a potentially Man, that is... Okay, I think we're just going to have to replace that before we even try this. That is just too loose. The rest of these are alright. This one, that one's like a kid's tooth ready to come out. Anyways, so the reason why I want to try this first with a known bad logic board that's got the blinking volume buttons issue is, A, it'll let us see if at least the amplifiers are able to power on. B, if there's any sort of fatal failure that occurs and it takes out the logic board with it, better to use a already on the way out the door logic board with blinking volume buttons than a logic board that may still work or a logic board that we do know works. Once we've sanity checked that this board isn't at least going to immediately fry our logic board, we'll put a good test logic board on here, not theirs. We'll just put our logic board on here and see if it actually produces sound or has any other issues. If this amp works, then we'll give it a new Schottky barrier diode for good measure. That's the part that normally fails and causes no power, but this one doesn't have a date code that normally fails. Nonetheless, we've got it apart. We're going to get it replaced anyways with a brand new one. And then, of course, last but not least, when we get it powered on, we'll see on the multimeter over there if it's got any DC offset out of spec. So, first, we need to take care of that. So I am actually just going to rip that sucker right off, since it's pretty much already done. And yep, that is almost certainly where that sparking came from when we tested the this board during our last stream. You can see the marks on the board right there. So that's definitely where that sparking came from. I'll have to. I still didn't have a chance to watch the replay of that yet. People say it was a pretty intense show. So I've got plenty of boards with that cap on there. We've barely ever replaced any of those. Here's a good one. This is a board that someone sent in from their own repair attempts, and when I got it and I saw that they had tried to replace the logic board connector themselves, and it was pretty uber-goobered, I kind of figured this thing would only be good for parts. But here we are. Let's try to get this stuff around the cap taken off the board first. This black, I think it's called underfill. Seems to be made of some silicone, rubbery. It's going to be easier to work with this stuff now while it's still relatively fresh versus 5-10 years down the road when it's gotten super hard and baked into the components through heating and cooling cycles. There we go. Nice and clear. So then let's just note really quick the orientation of this cap. We've got our positive lead here indicated by the white stripe. I think that would be the positive indicated by the white. In any case, we're just going to orient it the same way with the white stripe facing that direction on our other board. So that's going to be this guy right here. let's get our heat turned on. And we're going to see how well flowing a little bit of low melt flux in there and then hitting this with the heat gun works for us. Hey Martin, welcome to the stream. Chef, welcome, welcome. Okay. Yeah, our iron probably takes a sec here to warm up. Oh, we're getting there. Oh, we hit the wrong one there. That's the one that we want. Right? Yeah. Okay. Now, actually, can we just wiggle this out by hand here? Not quite. Oh, you're so close. It's still stuck to the board. Let that underfill a little bit. There we go. Now we're talking. You are just hanging on there. There we go. Easy peasy. Okay, now we gotta get these broken pads out, or pins. So let's basically do the same thing. Get some flux on there, put some low melt solder in to make it a little easier, and then it should just come right out. There's one. Number 2 wants to be tricky. What the heck? Let's go, little buddy. Give it up. Wow, why is this not coming out? I wonder if it's just like fused to the board. Let's try another approach. Let's try sucking all the solder out. Wow. I'm really being defeated by this one single little pin here. Okay, what if we just... wiggle it off. How can we get this sucker out? What is going on? Will all of this be for naught? I don't even know if this board works yet. Oh, oh, hey, finally got it out. Wow, what a pain. There you go. Alright, let's clean those pads up, pop our new cap in there, and then let's see if there's anything wrong with this board or if it even works. Looking good. Are those clear? Nope. Still got a bunch on the other side of that one. Okay, will that do it? Ah, gosh, I just can't get this hole clear so this cap isn't going in. It's just pulling so much heat from the board. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take the heat gun to this sucker. Okay, that cap is on. We just need to put some better solder on there to make sure that they stay on there. Not that I don't think there would be a problem with the low melt, but they are a little bigger, so. Okay, so we've got one cap that's on there. Everything's nice and cooled down, so here we go. I'm a little nervous after the previous results that we saw here on our last attempt. Okay, I'm going to I'm a little nervous about this. So I'm going to plug this in from the kilowatt side so that way I can be a safe distance from this in case it decides to spontaneously fail. Here we go. Oh, look at that. We have power. All right, let me come back over there. Okay, so the next question is, does their logic board work? Yes, it does. Well, it seems to be powering on. We'll give that a chance to finish booting up and see if this amp has any other issues. Did not like that. Did not like that one bit. Where did that popping sound come from? I'm hoping it's the display and not our logic board. Because I've got plenty of replacement displays. No big deal. Let me grab another display. Lots of strange sounds coming from this set of parts, huh? Okay. Yeah, that's not good. Let's see if it resets. Maybe they've just got Siri's voice turned off. No, it's not even resetting. So, damn, that's unfortunate. Pretty much every single part in this HomePod was broken internally, without a single sign of it showing from the outside, which is quite impressive. And there it goes. That's Huh. We're gonna sit around for a minute and just let this hang out. See if maybe we find anything else before we just call it quits here. We should also probably try their logic board on another amplifier, but I don't actually have another working amplifier on hand. Oh, well, at factory reset, there's just no sound. I got an idea. I have an idea. So we've got this amp that loses its bass when it warms up. And one of our Discord members came to the conclusion that it was the same cap that we've got on our website under the common issues section that shorts out and causes no bass. So let's go ahead and test that theory and take the cap from Tim's pod here, pop it onto our test board here, and if that fixes this the bass on this board, then we'll have an amp that we can put back together Tim's HomePod with, and we'll also be able to confirm our Discord members' solution here for an issue where we've seen a handful of times now where the bass slowly dies more and more over time the warmer everything gets up to operating temperature. So let's give that a try. Let's snag this cap right here. This is the cap that we've seen short out completely and cause no bass. But like I was saying, we have a member in our Discord server that noticed the same cap can start going bad and cause the bass to reduce in volume as everything warms up. also curious. Yeah, so that's kind of concerning, is 24, 22, 23. Huh. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm grabbing the right one here. That should do. Okay, so here's the plan. We're gonna pop this together enough to give it a test and set it up. We want to see if the base remains working on this for more than 5 or 10 minutes. So we're just gonna make sure this thing still works. And then we'll go ahead and end the stream and let it continue testing. And if it continues working just fine after a few hours, then we'll call it good and put it back together and let Tim know that it's all fixed up and good to go. But if this doesn't work, then we'll need to find another amplifier board that we can use for Tim's pod here. No big deal. Also, this will give us a chance to check and see if Tim's logic board here even produces sound still, because based on the behavior with his amplifier board, his original amp board, it was not producing any sound. So fingers crossed, this is the make or break if we can fix this or not. Really? Nothing. That sucks, 'cause as far as Tim knows, he's completely unaware of any reason why this would have any physical damage aside from a potential suspect. And I don't know how many details they're fine with us sharing here, but we'll keep it minimal. But it's not the first time we've heard this sort of thing happen, where people send it in thinking it's just a simple, just another no power issue, and looks totally fine on the outside. We get it apart, and there's just absolute destruction on the inside. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes out the logic board with it, and when it does that, we just don't have enough logic boards around to replace those. So we're gonna go ahead and pop the shields off here because I really want to explore every possible way that we'd be able to reasonably save this thing. So if there's anything obviously wrong underneath here, we'll go ahead and give it a shot. But I'm gonna assume there's probably a few things wrong here, especially when we heard that popping sound as soon as we woke it up. That was almost certainly it trying to turn the sound on and it dying. I mean, everything looks pretty good. There weren't any weird marks underneath the shields here. I think we might have to tap out on this one, at least for now. Unfortunately, gonna have to call this a no fix. However, if over the next few days we probe around our logic board here and find any differences between it and a working one, and we can manage to get this producing sound again, then I think we'll have a chance. We'll be back on track. But unfortunately, without our logic board functioning properly, we're just way too far into this to really make any sense. I mean, at this point, you're just, unfortunately, you're replacing the entire HomePod, because we've got damaged tweeter speakers in here and plastic threads on the shell, so this can't be reused. We've got a damaged amplifier board. It's physically bent, and who knows what else may be wrong with it. We couldn't get it fully working. Our logic board doesn't produce any sound, and our subwoofer is way bent out of shape. We've got other plastic bits broken. I really wanted this one to work out, but I'm not going to completely give up. I do want to see if we can figure out within the next few days why this logic board doesn't produce sound. It may lead us to finding a similar repair for a handful of other logic boards that we have on hand that also don't produce any sound. So that is actually all that we have for you here today. If you guys have any questions about your own HomePod repairs or sending it in to be fixed here on the channel, check out my website, nixfix.com, where I've got a dedicated section for all of the common issues that we try to repair here on the channel, and my contact info and how you can mail it in to be repaired for you here on the channel. Hope you all enjoyed this live